Right, guys, welcome to the Resilient Businessmen podcast, episode number 3. Today, I'm joined by a fellow coach. We were on the same course. Shout out to the Institute of Fitness Behavior Change while we're on for about, rock out for about a year and a half, Ash.
Something like that. Yep.
Yeah. And as I was sitting on the group calls, I would have my down days. And then I heard about Ash's story, of course, living with cancer. And I was like, wow, fucking hell. Ash has got it tough. I need to book my ideas up and grind harder, because just seeing how much he works hard, I was generally truly inspired. Okay, so I reached out to Ash. I was like, mate, would you be up for coming on the podcast and talking about your resilient journey throughout life? And of course, here he is today. So Ash, if you just want to quickly introduce yourself, tell people what you're about, we'll go from there.
Cool. All right. Well, firstly, Chris, thanks for inviting me on here, because obviously our paths have crossed in the past. But I follow you on social media, and I think what you're doing is really great, and being on the podcast. So I've been looking forward to coming on here. So thanks for having me on.
Cheers.
So my name's Ashley Green. I'm a behavior change coach, and I predominantly work with women, actually, to kind of help them lose a bit of weight, but really just to help them feel happier inside and out. Yeah, I'm just happy to be here.
Awesome. Another fellow coach changing lives. So as you can see by the title of this podcast, today we're talking about a personal subject, which is living with cancer. And we're going to start this journey from years before Ash got diagnosed. And yeah, I'm sure he's got some stories and tales to tell before we get to that. So should we start from there, Ash?
Let's start from there. I won't go too far back, because I don't want to bore everyone. But yeah, I think it's quite relevant being on this podcast, the Resilient Man. So let's rewind a little bit. So I started off life as I was a dancer, actually. My parents were dancers. They had their own dance studio. They had a couple of dance studios, actually. They worked a lot. They worked really hard. And we did have a really good childhood in lots of ways. But the only way me and my sister could be able to see my mum and dad was if we danced. Wow. So I think that's how we got into it, really. What kind of dance? Well, I trained in jazz and ballet and sort of contemporary. My sister, they were ballroom dancers. And my sister went into ballroom dancing, became the British champion, and British, UK champion, European, I think she was. Yeah, if I got that right. Sorry, sis, I haven't got that quite right.
You're watching.
Yeah. But she did really well. I went into more like stage dance, that kind of thing. Anyway, I did lots of competitions as well. So I was, I'll drop the mic here. I was British, United Kingdom, European, and United States theatre arts champion, actually.
Didn't know this about you, obviously.
Yeah. This is way back. This is when I was early 20s, so it's like a complete other lifetime ago. So that's so. And theatre arts is more, it's exhibition dancing, it's I can explain, pas de deux type thing, lots of high lifting and twirling around. So I lifted girls around for a living.
Wow.
Which is nice. So and then after that I joined a dance company, and we did 6 months in the West End. We sort of toured the UK and Europe, a bit of Asia, actually. Yeah, and so that's what I did for 6 months, and then sort of I did 10 years at the Royal Opera House. I trained as an actor as well, and so in the end I was getting sort of half dancing, half acting jobs. Didn't do anything major. Don't ask me. What have I been in? It's no. I did a couple of sort of #1 tours around the UK, doing various different things, different shows and stuff like that. I've danced on, must be 20 films and things but blink and you'll see me. It's I'm in this there. So it's like, you know,
Ash, what age were you during this period?
I was between, that was probably for the acting and, you know, probably between sort of 27 to 35 for that. Yeah, 27 to 37 probably for those 10 years after I stopped competing and then stopped being in the dance company, basically. So obviously, you know, you've got a shelf life when it comes to dancing. And guys can last, you know, they last a bit longer than women. But so when I was coming to the end of that, obviously you lose a little bit of I lost sort of direction about where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. I sort of drifted around for a while. I started doing some sales jobs here and there. I was still getting the odd job, but I was kind of like, I was a bit sort of stuck. When I look back now, I was a bit sort of stuck. I didn't really know what I was doing. So I was feeling quite low, and like knowing what I know about, you know, my self-esteem was pretty low at that time.
It's crazy,
So,
right? Like as men, we don't really know how low it is until you do self-development. You go, wow, you reflect on, God, I had really low self-esteem.
yeah, exactly. I wasn't really that aware about it, or no one really talked to me about that sort of thing. I know I just didn't feel right. I didn't really know where I was. I just had low self-esteem. And I basically got involved with there was a makeup artist who was on one of these shows, and I got involved with her, and she was Korean, and I led a very sort of bohemian lifestyle at the time, you know, and I was very laid back and very chilled out, and she basically her visa was running out, and so she wanted to get married. So I thought, yeah, why not? Okay, well, I'll help you out, get you think. And, you know, I thought I was in love with her at the time, or felt I was. So yeah, we got married. But she had I didn't know this at the time, but she had a mental disorder called borderline personality disorder. It's like she wasn't really in control of her emotions. It's like, you know, like bipolar. If I get this right about bipolar, you can have, you know, very highs and lows. But I think with bipolar, you can be high for a while, like weeks or months, and then you'd be low for like, you know, weeks or months. If I'm right about bipolar. Sorry if anyone listening, if I'm not got that right, but that's how I see it.
Yeah.
But she would have extreme emotions, but it could flip in like seconds. You know, she's very, very, very up and down. Always, people with borderline have always have a fear of people leaving them for whatever reason. Obviously, she's been through her own trauma to get there. But living with someone like that it was really tough, because I'd stopped her from jumping out of windows, running to oncoming cars. I mean, it was bad. It was really bad. You know, I used to wake up in the night thinking, how am I going to get out of this?
Wow.
Literally, because yeah, it was like literally felt trapped, because if I did try and leave, because you can imagine some of the arguments and stuff were awful. Imagine, you know, if I try to leave, she would like sleep in front of the door, you know, and you know her anger was awful. So yeah, so I got stuck in, it was mentally and physically abusive.
Just for context, Ash, like at what stage did you realize she had these problems?
It's an interesting question. You know, do you know what? I think I realized, if I was being honest, if I was being really honest, I think I realized before I actually married her.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, I think I did. But at the time where I was, I didn't feel like I didn't think I was worth it. I didn't feel my own worth, my own self-esteem, essentially, which I didn't even realize. I just thought that was, I didn't think I could, it's crazy to think now, I didn't think I could do any better than her, or I just thought that, and there is some of it like I was trying to help her as well. like my own sort of inner thing to sort of help people, I guess.
Yeah, when you said she asked, "Will you marry me?" and you went, "Yeah, I'll help you out." That's not like a normal response to marriage. I'll help you out. So,
No,
yeah,
no, it's not. No, it's not. Yeah, I just didn't feel. I didn't feel worth. I didn't feel my own worth. I didn't feel worth it, to be honest. Yeah, and I didn't realize that at the time, obviously, but obviously the work that I've done since, and I can sort of look back on that.
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, because even afterwards, I was thinking like, why? How have you got yourself into this situation? It's really because even things like even my friends didn't know that I'd got married. Like I hadn't told them. My family did, but we didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone else. It's because they would have said, "What are you doing?" They would
Right.
have told me not to, and I think that's why I didn't. So, and I needed to keep her. They had to keep. We had to. I had to keep them away from her, sort of thing, because it would never. She didn't like me mixing with. It's all down based all around control, right? She didn't
Very
want me
nice.
around, but I let that happen. And I'm a very social person. I have lots of friends, and so I just got myself into this situation, and I didn't know how to break out of it, because I didn't know what, some of it was like, I didn't know what she was going to do to me or to herself, you know.
Yeah.
And it's something I've never really spoken about. I mean, I'm happy to speak about it on here because your podcast is The Resilient Man, and I thought it was quite apt, but I'm quite open about cancer and about other things I've been through in my life, but yeah, I've never really spoken about this, because I think it's the stigma of being caught in an abusive relate, like for a man. I don't know why, but stuck in an abusive relationship, because I could just, my arms would be like, she'd throw things at me. She'd
Wow.
like, we were in Korea once, and she literally left me at the side of the road, and I had my flip-flops on, a vest, I'm such an English guy, a vest, and
Got
my
your best time.
yeah, like, hanky on the head. No,
Yeah.
I didn't have that. No, and that was it. And I was 4 hours. We were staying with her parents in Seoul, and we'd been away for the weekend to their condo in sort of like this beach resort, like 3.5 hours away. We're halfway between there, so it was like 2 or 3 hours from Seoul, stuck in a lay-by. I had no money, I had no passport. Like, she just left me there, which I was like, what do I do? I've got to walk back to Seoul. Like,
That what you're doing?
well, I mean, I waited there for like an hour or so, and then I was like, that's what I've got to do. But it's going to take me, I don't know, 2 days to walk, and it's very mountainous. So I don't know if you've ever been there.
No, no, I've never
It's
been.
not going to be a pleasant journey. So yeah, well, yeah, there's lots of stories I could tell. We won't go into the very painful stories.
The question is, before we move on, how did you get out of it?
Yeah, how did I get out of it? In the end, it was getting to a point where just wasn't. She knew I was going to leave her. It was only a matter of time. I tried a few times. I wasn't. It was almost like I wasn't. It's just so worried about what she was going to do. It's like I wasn't strong enough to leave. It's weird, just because I was just in a low place, and being with someone like that all the time, it kind of pushes you lower, actually. And yeah, so I was going to leave, and then if I left, because she wanted to get a visa, if I left, and the marriage breaks down, they wouldn't give her a visa. But if she can prove like physical abuse, then they would grant her a visa. So she went to the police, told them I was abusing her, which it wasn't. It was the actual other way around, and they arrested me. At the time, there was a whole big push for about clamping down on domestic abuse, and they needed to get their figures up and whatever. But anyway, so they arrested me. They charged me with it, and she just gave them photos. She was a makeup artist, so she would practice like bruises and stuff like that on her own face, and take pictures just to practice before the show. So she gave them pictures of her makeup for bruises because they're very good.
Wow.
And yeah, the police arrested me for that. And actually, it was awful. It was terrible because I was arrested by the police, and they charged me with something, which was awful as well. But actually, it was great what happened, because she had to keep away from me. We weren't allowed to be anywhere near each other, and so I could leave her and we'd break up, and that was it. She couldn't have any contact with me at all. We actually had to get a restraining order on her. Wow. Actually to stop thing, but it was kind of a blessing in disguise. I mean, having said that, she took all my savings, like all my stuff in the flat and everything. She had all the furniture, everything. She had all of that. I didn't have any of it, but you know what? I didn't care, because I was out of it. So I didn't care. So I had to go through waiting for the trial like 6 months, and I was literally living on my mate's sofa, or like sofa hopping, and that was it. Didn't have any money or my savings. I didn't have much savings because I've been a dancer, but I didn't have anything. But I didn't care, because I was out. And actually, coming out of it, there was a horrible court case looming, but I just felt, I don't know, I just felt so much joy of life at that time. It was just so nice to be out of that, from seeing someone who's obviously, and she's got a mental health problem for from the trauma that she's been through in the past, but from seeing that and seeing how someone can sort of go down that spiral, being out on the other side, life was it was lovely.
Just freedom.
It was just free. Exactly, you got it. It was just freedom. And I just love life. I was just so much happier being out the other end. So I didn't care about sleeping on a sofa. And I was also, at the time, so I started doing Zumba, because obviously I was a dancer, and at the time Zumba classes were like really popular.
Whether at the peak,
I think they were sort of peaking around that time. I think they still are popular now, but
yeah, possibly.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, but so I started doing Zumba. So I was doing like 5 or 6 classes a week, and they were all packed. Like, I had 40, 50 people, 40, really? 50 women in the class. Yeah.
Go on.
And yeah, it was just so much fun, because I just had to dance around, and they followed me, and they were really into it and loved it. It was just a great way to. So at the time, I had not a care in the world, just really happy, and I was dancing around, and life was good. Life was really good. Anyway, to finish off the story, we went to court, and they literally chucked it out after about an hour or two, because it was just, once you read her statements, it was just ridiculous. And of course, it didn't make any sense at all. They just wasted a lot of money. The CPS just wasted a lot of money. If someone had actually read and pieced it all together, it wouldn't make any sense at all.
I think that can help, Ash, because there's a lot of people behind closed doors and toxic relationships, and they just feel stuck, and they stay there for whatever unique reason they have. So
yeah,
and to hear a man talk about that, it's normally a woman, isn't it, really, who would speak about stuff. So I think if anyone could relate, they'd highly appreciate that insight for sure.
Yeah. I think, that obviously there is and I understand it. I guess it's that feeling of, there's a feeling of shame around that, about being in that situation. How did I get myself in there? And then sticking in there and going through all that sort of abuse, and I guess there's lots of feelings of shame around that.
Did it take your masculinity away, do you think, or not?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it did, because it's not, you don't expect to, I guess, you don't expect a man to be there and getting, physically abused, right?
Well, I haven't been paying much attention to Johnny Depp, but obviously it's huge at the minute of the time of this recording, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
So I haven't really watched it, so I can't really give my opinion. But have you
No.
been watching it at all or not?
To be honest, I
We're
try
too
and
busy.
avoid it.
Yeah.
I'm too busy, man.
Too busy.
No, yeah. I try and avoid it. To be honest, I see the odd thing, but I try and avoid it. I just think, it's like, I don't know, going through that sort of, there's other things to worry about rather than two people,
Yeah.
going through that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Cool. Right. So at this point, we're at Zumba. We're living the life again.
Yeah. So at this point, yeah, we're sort of 2011. What's that? Or just over 10 years ago now. Yeah. So I was doing Zumba. It was all good. I met Steph, who I'm married to now, who just came along, and with Steph, everything just clicked as you want, a relationship to have when you first meet someone. Yeah, so very happy. And I think that all comes down to like how I was feeling within myself. Like I had this new sort of lease of life, and sort of I was just, I was doing a job that was just like so much fun to do. I was earning all right money, and
dancing and following your steps. Was she?
Yeah. Yes. What, Steph? Yeah. She was. Yeah. It sounds dodgy.
So got you in like leather hot pants dancing.
No. Don't get excited. No. No, I was just in the gym stuff. But yeah, she was. Yeah, she used to come to Zumba.
Yeah.
And then that's sort of how we met.
Yeah.
I know it sounds dodgy, instructor and one of the students.
It happens a lot, to be honest.
Yeah. But yeah, and we just, got on like a house on fire, and everything clicked, and still does. And we married and got a beautiful daughter now as well. So that was all good. But anyway, so that was 2011. And then people were asking me, like the women in the class were asking me to train them.
Right.
Like to help them lose weight and get fitter and tone up and that sort of stuff. So I basically trained as a PT. I thought, oh yeah, I'd enjoy doing that. So I trained as a PT and started training them. So then I started on my PT career, basically. Oh. And where we lived in South London, and I was a mobile PT, and yeah, I just got busy really quickly, because like people from the Zumba classes and things like that, and went out and sort of built out some good programs. I saw women sort of 2 or 3 times a week over 6 or 12 months, and yeah, just got really busy doing that. And I was doing Zumba classes, and it was cool. Me and Steph moved in together, all going really well. Then so that was sort of up to sort of 2012. Then we went to India for Christmas. Great time in India. Came back, and I guess I've never had anything really wrong with me. Even when I was dancing, I didn't really had any injuries or anything. I think I had shin splints once, and I had the odd, I think I pulled my groin once, but that was about it. I had no pulled hamstrings or anything else really. So I always felt pretty indestructible. And then came back from India. Work was really busy, classes were really busy, everything was going really well. And I started getting like this pain in my neck. And I'd always had a bit of a dodgy neck. Like it was a bit of a weakness. Like I'd always pull it, or when you pull it, and I'd wake up and it was kind of like, it would be a lot.
Ones, aren't they? You're like, oh my God, how is this happening?
Yeah, it's like the most painful thing. It's awful. So it kept getting worse and worse. I kept going to see my osteopath, who'd like click it back and whatever, but it got worse and worse and worse and worse. So over that, that probably started in like February, March, when we got back from India, and it just got worse and worse through the day. It's like so badly. I was like, I went to like A&E like 3 times, because it was awful. I was still really busy, still training everyone. I was still doing classes, but it was like I had to like balance my head on the top. I couldn't like move my neck. When I was lying in bed, I had I couldn't just move my head on the pillow. I had to like put my hand on my head and move my head because it was just so painful. I kept going to the doctors, and they because I was a fitness instructor or a PT, they said, well, you've probably just done something. And it was like the guy, this is not all GPs obviously, but the guy I was speaking to, he really wasn't taking it seriously. But I kept saying, no, it's not that there's something else going on here. It's not just I know about my body. There's something else happening. I went for like X-rays for A&E. Went to A&E 3 times. They did X-rays. They said it was arthritis, but they did the wrong area. They did sort of like down here, and the pain was sort of here on this side. They X-rayed the wrong place.
God.
Yeah, there's a catalogue of errors going on. No one could really diagnose anything or weren't taking it seriously.
What was the duration on that, Ash? Like how long was that going on for?
That was going on. So that was March, let's say February, March 2013. And then it must be October, November of 2013. So it was so bad. It was like, if I had to demonstrate a press up for someone, I'd have to like, because leaning down, it was like my head was going to pop off. It was like building up. So I had to like hold my breath, go downstairs, do a press up, and sort of stand back up really quickly before it felt my head was going to explode off the top of my head. It was awful, like really bad pain. There was one day I came in from I was training people in the morning, and I came back and I was quite tired. My neck was really sore. Well, I just couldn't move it. So I lied down on the bed, and I woke up sort of an hour later, just in like serious pain. Basically what had happened, my neck had collapsed, which I knew now I know at the time. And I had multiple fractures around C1. C1 is like your atlas joint where everything moves. So I had multiple fractures around there, and actually got a bit of bone missing in my neck where the kind of tumor was. Obviously, I didn't know that at the time, but I was in like searing agony. I just couldn't move. At the time, Steph was working at the Natural History Museum, and I called her, and she came back and sort of looked after me. I still didn't call the ambulance for another day and a half.
Oh my God.
Don't know why. Anyway, long story short, they diagnosed. I went through more treatment. They took me in there. They X-rayed it, but they didn't see the breaks and the missing part bone. They just sort of released me. I was on like 40 different pills and painkillers. They released me, and then they, like 3 days later, they called me back and said, you need to come back to the hospital now. Where are you? I just so happened to live up the road from it. And can you come back now, please? I literally walked in there, and all these nurses and doctors jumped out, put me on this bed, sellotaped my head to the bed.
So they don't tell you on the phone because they don't want to break the news. They've got to get you in person.
Yeah. So I had multiple fractures around C1 and a piece of bone missing there. Then I had to have a biopsy, which I had to put a needle through there and take out some. Anyway, it turns out that I had it was called a plasmacytoma, which is multiple myeloma, which is a blood cancer, but it's only in one place, and that's called a plasmacytoma. So I went through like 5 weeks of radiotherapy, which helped it because it helped fuse all the bone back together. And then I did lots of physio in it and worked on my neck.
Sorry, what's radiotherapy like for obviously people who don't have it?
Well, for the place I had it in, it was fine. I mean, these days, I think in the past, like 20 years ago, you'd have to lie in the bed and be on there for like, I don't know, from what I gather, like 20, 30 minutes, like long treatments. But these days, it's like super quick. So you go in there, and I had it, and obviously now it sort of, they have this amazing machine that just sort of moves around and like fires the laser for the different angles to miss all your organs and things like that. Right. And it just sort of went round and fires this. Right. So it literally, the treatment takes a minute.
Really?
Yeah, and that's it. So I had five weeks of that every day for 5 weeks, or 6 days a week for 5 weeks.
Any side effects?
Well, yeah, I lost taste in my mouth. It was like I'd been chewing metal. It's not pleasant.
No.
But that came back. And other than that, I don't really get any other effects. I didn't get any other effects from it. I think people, if they have it in their stomach or somewhere, like they do get some other effects from it, like, you know, pains in the stomach and that sort of thing. But from where I had it, it was fine. I just lost taste.
And can you remember the moment?
And someone says that I didn't have taste anyway. So
from the story you said at the start, obviously not.
no, exactly.
Can you remember the moment when obviously you got told? Like, how did you feel?
Yeah, well, you just weren't expecting it at all, because no one had ever mentioned that it would be any sort of cancer at all. And so I really didn't think it was going to happen. I wasn't expecting that at all. And obviously to get to that point, it had been 8 months to get there. At one point, they thought it was really unstable. So at one point they were going to like put a plate in the back of my head and fuse me down my spine to sort of hold which obviously wouldn't have been pleasant at all. But luckily I was actually 12 hours away from that. Really? And then they decided, actually, it's fine. We don't need to do that, which is lucky, because I won't be able to move, won't be able to do all the things that I could do. So I was lucky there. Yeah, it was a shock. It's like your world is, because I'd never even heard about myeloma or, you know, blood cancer. Or it's like didn't understand it at all.
I think especially blood cancer, for me, it's like, whoa, blood cancer, like,
yeah,
running through your body, isn't it? So
that's right. Yeah, because I literally said to them at the time, she goes, oh yeah, you know, it's just in this place and blah blah. I was like, can't you just cut it out? It's like, well, no, because it's your blood. It's like, oh God. And then, you know, you see the images of people like with leukemia and, you know, that sort of thing. It's like, do people recover from it? You know, did they, how long do they live? You know, all these things sort of go through your head. And you know, I was with Steph, and actually she was pregnant with Sienna at the time. We weren't engaged yet, but we were going to be engaged. I remember we sort of left there with all these pamphlets, and sort of like we're like straight to the pub. But we sat in the pub. It's like we couldn't even sit there. We got a bottle of wine, but it was like, should we just go? Because you were just sitting there like just dumbstruck, like,
oh God,
yeah.
Until you're in that position, really, can you?
No.
You've got Steph, who's about to give birth. Was it to you first?
Yeah, well, she was just pregnant. She was only a couple months pregnant, actually.
But yeah, she's pregnant. Exciting news.
Yeah.
And then you get that news as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what's going to happen? What does it mean? What's multiple myeloma? You know, all the questions. And they didn't know exactly how, because there's lots of different forms of myeloma. And we didn't know all the details. You know, if I had it anywhere else, I had to do MRIs, and, you know, because it attacks your it's in your bone marrow. It attacks your ribs and spine and, you know, femurs, you know, legs and stuff like that. And it attacks the bone. So it makes it sort of eats away at the bone, basically. So that's why, you know, people might get lots of fractures and breaks and things like that.
Right, yeah.
So I still had to go through loads and loads of tests. And, you know, if anyone's been going through lots of tests in hospitals trying to get a diagnosis, it's a nightmare, because you go to different departments, and then they lose the thing, and then you're supposed to, you know, you're supposed to get this done, but then you got on the waiting list for that. It all takes time, and you've got to get through, you know, secretaries, and it's really quite difficult. So actually getting a diagnosis is a bit of a nightmare, in my experience anyway. Once you get the diagnosis, things are much clearer, because then you can once you get on a treatment plan, because up until that point you don't know, and then all you've got is Google.
Yeah, and that's a bad idea.
And that's a really bad idea. Don't
Oh,
Google anything.
yeah. Even when you've got like a minor illness, you like Google it and you're like, hold on, it could be that and that and that.
Yeah, I've got a sore little finger. I've got to have my arm off.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same, and the same with things like myeloma. It's like when I first started looking, it's like anyone who gets myeloma, they've got 60 days to live. I think years ago, like 20 years ago, that's what it used to be. They didn't used to know much about it.
Right. Yeah.
But that's improved a lot now.
Mm.
But yeah, don't Google anything. That's a bit of tip for anyone.
So in terms of business, did it have much of an impact?
Well, it did. Yeah, it was at the time. It was difficult because obviously I was a PT, and everything relied on me to be sort of physical PT, and I was doing group classes with Zumba and stuff. So I had to stop. All PT had to stop. Actually, Steph took over. She had to come out of her comfort zone, and she took the classes because she knew all my dances. She knew everything. And
she used to be the client.
yeah. She knew all the dances, and they all knew her as well. So it was a very similar sort of style. And I could set the class, how I like it. So it's all very similar. And people were very supportive as well. So we just Steph did the Zumba classes, so it did impact it. And so from then on, it was like, right, I need to get a business that doesn't solely just rely on me.
Yeah,
this is my thought at the time anyway. So we started thinking, let's build a studio so we can get trained. We could just we can run it, we can get and build it, and we get trainers into do that. So that's kind of what we went on to do, from that. So that was like early 2013, and literally the myeloma came back. So I got the full blown myeloma. So in Christmas, just coming out of Christmas 2015, so like early 2016, I had literally got a fracture in one of my ribs. So it was super painful. As I got that, I remember I couldn't walk up the stairs of our flat because it was so painful. I came in from Zumba, from the Saturday class, and I was like, I can't move. And I literally had a phone call from the hospital saying, we just got your bloods back. You need to come in and see us.
Oh, and then you know what that means.
Like, oh no. Okay. Anyway, so I had myeloma. So I had various tumors around my spine. And was it back in my neck then? No, I don't think so. But it was like, I had like 4 along my spine and a couple of my ribs. Anyway, we wanted to have another baby. The treatment, firstly, the treatment is like 4 months of chemotherapy, like 4 or 5 cycles of chemotherapy. They get you into remission, and then or get your blood levels down, and then you have a stem cell transplant. So if you have a stem cell transplant, it's like high dose chemotherapy, high dose chemo. So it's like super strong stuff. So it basically wipes out everything, kills everything off.
Wow.
Nothing survives apart from you, barely. And so it wipes out your fertility. Forget it. Right. So we wanted to have another baby. So we decided, we asked the doc, could we put the treatment on hold? So we sort of tried for a baby. So they're like, okay, fine. So we put it on hold for like 2 or 3 months. We got pregnant. Everything's all good. And then I started treatment. So the treatment, I'd start with chemotherapy first. And our 12-week scan just happened to be the day before I started treatment, right? So we went for the 12-week scan, and there was a problem with the baby, and which obviously is a nightmare, and no one wants to hear that. it was terrible. And I started chemotherapy the next day.
Wow.
So we didn't know how bad things were, or we had to wait for the baby to develop a little bit more. Anyway, we got to sort of week 22, 23. I was in my third cycle of chemotherapy, so I was like heavily under the drugs at that point. And yeah, and we'd lost the baby basically.
Wow, 20 plus weeks in.
Yeah, and yeah, Steph was 22 weeks, so she had to give birth to the baby.
Oh God.
Yeah, so we had to go through that. So that was like probably one of the toughest things I had to go through.
Well, no one knows about this, to be honest, but me and the missus had a one earlier this year, and yeah,
Oh, really?
it was only 8 weeks too. So, and I always said, God, I feel sorry for the people who have to actually give birth, and
Yeah,
that's next level pain, isn't it? So, wow.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's more common than what you
Sure.
think. Isn't it? You're lucky to
Yeah,
have a child, basically, from what I've read.
totally. Yeah. And that was the thing, I suppose, because we had a little. Sienna was 2 then, I think, roughly about 2. So everything that's going on, you still got to show up for them as well. And she sort of helped us get through it, I guess, because it was hard. Obviously, business wise, business keeps going, clients keep going, trying to build a studio. I mean, part of you thinks like, I can't be bothered with any of it, but it's like you got to keep ticking things over, right? You
So
just got to keep moving forward.
literally battling cancer at that point, aren't you? You're battling it.
Literally, yeah. Because
And then you've just lost your daughter, and then you've got to run the business.
we've got to run the business with the studio. We're setting up a studio that we've been working on for 3 years to get to the position where we're there. So it was all happening all at the same time. So
that is the epitome of the resilient businessman. Can you get any more resilient than that? I do not think so. Wow.
No. But yeah, I mean, I remember it was. I always try and when I'm going through cancer, like to keep like exercise levels high. I mean, that's a thing that doctors don't really talk about, in my experience, anyway. I'm sure there's some that do, but they don't really talk about sort of exercise and helping you get through chemo through exercise. I think there's other countries like Denmark, I believe, or Holland, who they actually prescribe a sort of a fitness plan through your chemotherapy.
It's funny you say that, Ash. I was watching this thing last year about some man who got diagnosed with terminal cancer or something, and he just went like, "Fuck it, I'm going to start living my life," as you do when you get that news.
Yeah.
You just started running marathons,
Right.
Then I think he's still alive to this day, and he got to like months or something, and must be the benefits of exercise in there somewhere.
Totally. There's huge benefits of exercise with if you've got cancer, or definitely, yeah. So I'm big on that. But at that particular time, first time I went through, it almost finished me off completely, because I couldn't handle that. Because especially on chemo, you only got a certain amount of energy. Yeah. You got to choose what you do during the day, because you literally you've got like a tank of energy, and once it's gone, that's it.
Did you have staff underneath you at that point? Obviously, when you're building the studio, or
just yeah. We had one trainer at the time who was able to take over like one-to-ones. I think we just employed him, actually. Yeah.
So you were still all hands on?
I was still all hands on, but while he was there, while I was doing that, I could sort of, I brought myself out of it, because we had fitness boot camps going on as well as Zumba, and we just got other Zumba instructors in to cover that sort of thing.
I see.
Yeah, so we had to juggle all of that, and then we opened the studio. So my treatment went on from sort of like May 2016, and I finished my stem cell transplant like November.
And then from that point to the present, like, how's it been going on since then?
Yeah, well, it came back again in 2019. So I had to go through the cycles of chemotherapy again and another stem cell transplant. Obviously, I'd been through it once before, so I kind of knew what to expect.
Right.
I wasn't so scared of it. It was just like, okay, I've got to do this again.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did a proper training plan, because obviously the first time all the people say to you is, oh, you've got to relax, take it easy, don't do too much. You do have to do that. You've got to balance it out. You've got to have rest, like on any training plan, you've got to have rest, right? People will hear that and then just not do anything. But you've got to exercise, So I did a proper training plan all the way through, like a cardio plan and a strength plan as well. And I actually recovered. Like, people coming from a stem cell, they literally just don't recover, or takes them 6 months, a year, maybe more to recover from it. They could be in hospital for a month to 2-3 months even. And I know people react to things in different ways, but I was, both times I was out within 11 days.
So you think you're so active, like, has a huge
my fitness level, it has a massive impact on it.
Because if you follow Ash on any of his social media, you'll see like what he's doing. He's doing all sorts, swimming in lakes and shit.
Yeah. Well, now I'm training for a half Ironman.
Wow.
Yeah, because when I was in hospital, and it was just before the pandemic. I was in hospital when those toilet roll gate was happening.
Oh God.
When people are going nuts and buying loads of toilet roll.
Yeah.
So I was watching it on the TV. Because obviously that what they do for a stem cell transplant, they blast you with high dose chemotherapy, and it kills off everything. So it kills your immune system. So I was in hospital with no immune system, and there's toilet roll gate happening.
I remember that actually, because we're on the program together, weren't we? And I remember you all of a sudden were just in hospital.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And they give you your stem cells back in. They give you high dose chemo one day. The next day, they inject you with your stem cells that they've taken out previously. And the chemo kills everything off, kills the immune system. Meanwhile, your stem cells is like swimming around, and then they sort of plant in your bone marrow again, and then you start growing your immune system again. It's amazing what they do. I mean, it's just phenomenal. But yeah, you don't feel too well in that. But yeah, I made sure that I'm in isolation basically, because I don't have an immune system. But I made sure that I'd get out. I was still doing 6,000 steps a day, because there was only like maybe one 2 days where I couldn't move. I could literally crawl to the toilet and back because I was so ill. But other than that, I was up, literally walking up and down the hallway, just trying to get everything moving. Yeah. Just getting your steps going. And then I was out within 11 days. And then after that, it took me probably like another month to feel, so I didn't have to sleep during the day and stuff like that. And then probably another 4 or 5 months to get my fitness back to where it wanted to be.
In comparison to the 2 times, did the second time, did you react to it better, do you feel, or were you stronger, or how do you feel?
Yeah, I think I reacted to it better because I knew what was coming. I knew, I wasn't so scared of it really.
But that's mentally, but what about physically?
I think I handled it better.
Did you?
Yeah, which is surprising because my worry going into the second time was like, oh, maybe I'm not going to be as resilient this time as I was last time because it's the second time. But I think just my fitness level and looking after my fitness and making sure I did something every day, made sure I did something every day, but also knowing when I needed to rest as well, rather than just resting all the time, just knowing when that is. And sometimes I'd get it wrong. And if I'd get it wrong, if I did too much on one day, then the next day I was wiped out and I couldn't do anything. Floored, yeah. But I handled it better. I had a much better it sounds corny, but it's like I had just a much better mindset to it. I was just more positive at the time. I was doing all the self-care things that we all should do.
Yeah.
I was journaling, I was meditating every day, gratitude, all that kind of thing, visualizations.
Just shows the value in what we teach the same things, don't we? It just shows the
Totally.
value. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. So when I was in hospital, at some point, when I'm lying there and I couldn't move on that, I remember thinking like, okay, if I ever get out of this, because I kind of think at that time, like, what if my immune system doesn't recover or blah, 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 you still get those thoughts in your head. Like, what should I do? Like, where should I go? And I was thinking, one thing I haven't done is one of those things, you always say you're going to do and then you don't.
Right. Yeah. Like your bucket list kind of thing, right? I'm going to it's like your bucket list, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
I'm going to do this and this before I die.
Yeah, exactly. And I always thought, I always do physically. What do I want to do? I always said I was going to do a triathlon, but it's one of those things like, I don't have time for the training and all that kind of thing. I said, right, that's what I'm going to. When I get better, I'm going to start doing triathlon because I just want to do it. Plus, I have to keep my fitness level quite high.
Yeah,
because at some point it'll come back, and I've got to be fit to fight off, to deal with the treatment, if anything else. So I basically I recovered for it, got my fitness level back, and then started doing triathlon. And then I did triathlon last year. I did 3 triathlons last year. Wow. And then I thought, oh, you know what? I'm just going to do a half Ironman. I'll just try that.
Why not? Difference? I mean, I'm in the fitness industry, but I don't know what the difference is.
Yeah, well, no, I did 1 sprint triathlon, and then I did 2 Olympic triathlons. So Olympic is 1,400 meters, if we get this right. I've got to think now. 1,400 meter swim, a 40k bike, and a 10k run. Half Ironman is like 1.9k swim or 2,000 meter swim. It's a 90k bike.
Wow.
And a half marathon, like a 21k run.
Are you doing it for any cause, like a charity? You should do.
I should do, but I'm not.
I mean, you should definitely be doing it. Maybe afterwards, people listen to this podcast.
Yeah. For the next one, I'll do it for the next one. Yeah, but I just do it because I like challenging myself with stuff, and it keeps me fit, and I kind of like doing that. So yeah, I've been training that for 5 months, and that's on the 12th of June, so a couple of weeks.
Oh wow! And what's the most tricky out of the swimming, the cycling, and running? What do you find the most challenging?
Interesting. Well, probably the bike.
Is it just because it's sore, or?
It does get sore. Yeah, I don't know. Well, swimming's tricky because it's all about technique, and
that's one thing I've never getting my head around.
Swimming, and I mean, I've just watched YouTube videos, and I've improved quite a bit.
Oh, you've just been studying YouTube and then implemented it.
Basically, yeah. I mean, I need a coach to help me if I can get, because I don't know how to go faster or slower. It's weird. Sometimes I just go faster, and I don't know why.
We need to practice what we preach. I'm the same with golf.
Totally.
I still haven't gotten a coach for golf.
Right. Yeah. A coach would be so good because they could tell me exactly what I'm doing, give me some drills to do, and I'd improve a lot.
Any advice for someone who obviously gets the diagnosis? Like, what would your thoughts be for anyone?
What, a diagnosis of cancer?
Yeah, like just any advice for someone who gets the news or
well, like I say, work on your fitness. Always keep doing something. It doesn't matter where you are in your fitness journey, or even if you haven't even started on your fitness journey, get your fitness level up, and just that should be a priority. I think it really, whether you have cancer or not, I think it should be a priority personally. But because there's lots of horrible diseases that we can get, and if you are fitter, you've got more chance of, you know, surviving and handling the treatment, if anything. You know, so I would say always work on your fitness, and again, like what everyone should do anyway, work on your self-care, work on you, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
Journal, meditate, you know, because it's all that positivity and feeling good, and you know, because it's very easy for you know, if someone tells you something like that, just to go, oh no, and you know, and just sort of retreat back into your shell because of fear, really. And I totally understand where people are at with that, but what's the alternative? You know, I could easily, you know, I'm always trying to improve my life and change things because I don't want to be, I don't want things to, I don't want to, you know, I want to keep improving. My life isn't over just because I've got cancer. I can still live, you know, because I could get knocked over by a bus, or you know, or I might live longer than you, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
You know, anything could happen, couldn't it?
Absolutely, but we just take it for granted, don't we? Like,
We take it all for granted, yeah, but it goes like this.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
It is. So yeah, just keep pushing forward, you know, because what's the alternative? Like, you know, we're only here once.
Very true.
It's all corny, all very corny stuff, but it's so true.
When shit hits the fan, then it's like, fucking hell, it is the truth, right? But it's corny, but
yeah, right.
So finally, like, where can people get a hold of you if there's anyone watching this inspired by Ash? Maybe they need some advice, or maybe they want to get you as a coach. Where can they get you?
Sure, social media.
Yeah,
Facebook, you get me at Ashley Green, on Instagram as well, at Better Body Guru. I think I'm on there. Yeah, come. I predominantly work with women.
Yeah.
And you know, I help them lose some weight, like 12 to 24 pounds. You know, it's women who feel unhappy with themselves, basically, for whatever reason, break through what's keeping them stuck so they feel happy inside and out.
Right, everybody, this has been Ashley Green's Resilient Businessman Journey. What an episode. If you need Ash's help, feel free to reach out. And if you need my help, of course, reach out to me too. Okay, guys, I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for joining us, Ash.
Cheers. Thanks.